Greetings in the name of Yahuwah and His Son Yahusha HaMashiach. My name is Malak Shalomo, and I'm gonna do some trade setups on NVDA, AMD, and Tesla, and just show like my thought process and how I'm gonna trade tomorrow. Today is the 7th of February 2023, so these setups are for the 8th. So let's start with NVIDIA. So if you want to check out my previous video, it kind of got cut off prematurely, but that was my market analysis video leading into this video, so you can check out those for market analysis on the US dollar, the NASDAQ, NQ mini futures, the ES1 SPY mini futures, the Russell mini futures. So let's see, starting off with NVIDIA. NVIDIA is like one of the strongest tech stocks right now. I think Microsoft is actually very strong as well, and I say that because in comparison to the structure of like the ES1 and the NASDAQ, right? So looking over here at the NQ1, right, you can see the both of them ended up bullish, right? But we still have these highs that NQ1 hasn't taken out, right? So looking over at the ES1 as well, same kind of structure where it's like it's lower highs, right? So going over to NVIDIA, right, when you look at NVIDIA's price structure, we actually broke those highs, right? So anything bullish tomorrow on like the NASDAQ and the ES1, this is gonna take flight, right? So we already broke this high right here at 219.51, right? So right now we closed up at 221.72. so let's see here. Let's look at some pivot setups right here, right? So on this day, what day was this? This was Friday. On Friday's session, we had the higher value relationship, which it rejected, and that was the start of like the decline or the change in behavior of the uptrend, right? So we had that push down right here on that day, closed lower, had the lower value pivot relationship, tried to break out, and ended up closing, I believe it was below this pivot level right here, right? And when was that? That was yesterday, right? So today we had this lower value pivot relationship. I believe it was overlapping, right? So overlapping lower value. So let me make this a little bigger. Right, so you see the bottom central pivot, which is flipped. This green line is usually the bottom central like this over here, but sometimes in the calculation it flips, right? So this is the bottom central pivot, this is the top central pivot, but it's flipped sometime. So you can see here that this top central pivot, which is now the bottom central pivot, is below this top central pivot, and this top central pivot is now lower than previous day's bottom central, right? So that's a little confusing, but just know that these flip sometime, right? So you're just looking at the range really. So the range here, the top of this range is within this range right here, but the bottom of it is lower. So that's the overlapping lower value relationship. So now with that thesis, we're looking for moderately bearish price action, but then we actually had like support, right? So it supported on top of it. So again, we had this change in trend moving down, right? Now we have a change in trend again, where we're getting support and we're moving back up. So this is trend continuation, and this here was the change in trend. So if we continue changing the trend, it would have been switched to a downtrend, but we're still in the uptrend right here. So had Powell speak, came back, tested it, and closed very bullish, right? So that's going to lead to the setup we're going to get into now. Let's see. Right, so let me make this a little bigger. Right, so right now this is the bottom central pivot. That's the pivot there, the blue. And that's the top central pivot right there, the dark red. So now we have a higher value relationship and we're looking for price to go higher, right? So these are supposed to act as support and we're supposed to get buys in these areas if price pulls back here to go further, right? So that's one setup. If we open, I guess, somewhere around in between this range right here or above this and come back to test this area, we're looking for buys at this area, right? So that's one thesis right there. That's like one strategy, one setup. So looking at the money zone, hold on, let me just take the pivots off, put on the money zone, right? So the value area low tomorrow is going to be in a higher value relationship because it's higher than today's value area high, which was at 212.71, and this value area low is now at 213.15, right? So it's a higher value relationship, and even if price pulls back, this is like the last area of support. So even if you get a sell-off early during the session, like maybe it's a typical day where you get like a sell-off, you're probably going to get support right here to move back in up to probably the value area high, which is now at 219.92. So that's a setup right there, right? So if we open below here, right, we're still in value. If we open in this area, in between this area, we're still in value. It's still holding the thesis of a higher value day, right? So anything within this area and comes back to these levels, like the POC level or the low, the value area low, we're looking for support there to either get back to this level or break the level, right? So that's that setup right there with the money zone. And now with the Camarilla levels, let's see. I'm going to go over to the chart where I have the Camarilla setup. So right today we had an inside value day on the Camarillas. We found support at R3 and pushed up from there. So that's R3, the red line, and we had S3 here moved in closer from previous day. So that's giving it the inside value day, right? So that's suggesting breakout. We got the support at R3 and we did get like a push up, right? So now we have S3 at this level and R3 at this level. So that's a higher value relationship where it's above S3 is now above R3. So we're looking for higher value in prices. This is now a support level, S3, right? So anything coming to retest this level, we're looking for buys at S3 to go higher. Now if price opens above R3, right, does a pullback, we're buying at R3 for higher levels, right? So let's see. And another thing here is the S3 and the pivot level is a double pivot zone, right? I wonder if you could see that there clearly. Let me see. Let me make this a little bigger. Right, so S3 and this pivot level, the floor pivot level, is on the same level. Right, so this is a strong, wait, hold on. Right, so this area right here is a strong support level, right? Because it's two pivots. Wait, hold on. Right, so we have two levels here creating a double pivot zone, which is creating support, heavy support. So if price does break the value area high, which is the money zone value area high, gets the S3, we have strong support here for a buy, right? So that's another strategy setup right there. And also we have these POC levels of the money zone, which is here and here, right? So all these areas here are support, right? So looking for higher value, anything within here, we get like these reversal patterns. If it does pull back, these are the buy areas for higher price targets. So that's the setup there on NVIDIA. That's if the NQ opens strong. Let's see what the NQ is doing right now. Right, so you see the NQ is not touching this pivot level here at all, and it's staying bullish. So if the NQ opens tomorrow, like in these levels, we're gonna get that pop up on NVIDIA, because NVIDIA closed really strong. So now looking at AMD, right, so the money zone right now on AMD is a little different. So the value area low is lower than previous day's value area low. This is the setup for tomorrow, right? It's lower than the value area low of today, and this value area high is now lower than the coming day's value area high. So that's an outside value relationship, and that suggests like you might get like range and price action. So within how I look at AMD, this is suggesting that this one, because I look at AMD as like the weakest kind of tech stock right now, right? So when the market is weak, I'm looking for shorts on AMD like I did today, right? So I caught a short on AMD up here down to these levels right here, right? So when the market is selling off, I'm looking to short AMD. So this is setting up where it's suggesting a range day, but if the stock market or like the Nasdaq and stuff opens weak, this is a breakdown, some breakdown levels here to get back to the value area low. I'm not looking for it to start ranging. I'm looking for it to probably start losing some of these highs right here. So even though it gapped up today at the end, I think it was just buying with all of the rest of those tech stocks. They just bought it as well. But to say that it's actually strong like NVIDIA, I don't think so. It's not. So and just looking at its setup, right? You see it's still way below these highs. NVIDIA already broke these highs, right? And this one is still all the way down here. So it's the weakest tech stock in my opinion. And let's see here. Let's look at some other setups. Let me take off the money zone. All right, so the central floor pivots right here is a overlapping higher value, right? So with this overlapping higher value, it's suggesting that price action should get some support around these levels, like the pivot level, and to move to a higher value, right? So it's a moderately bullish kind of setup. So I'll see how that works out. So in this, let's see, for the Camarilla setup, the Camarilla setup is a higher value there as well. So anything that's these two other levels here, the money zone, and well, it's really the money zone that is kind of is capping that bullish kind of outlook on this. And I'm already looking at AMD as a weak kind of tech stock. So any kind of rejection around this level here, I'm looking to short R3, right? Back down to like probably the POC level of like the money zone or the value area low. So if the sentiment changes tomorrow with the overall market and it starts moving down, then I'll be shorting AMD like this, right? So, or even if it opens above like a gap up and it stalls, I'll take the R3 breakdown, you know. So that's AMD. Let's see Tesla. So Tesla is another strong tech stock, but Tesla is not as strong structurally as NVIDIA, right? So still haven't broken those highs, and it's really up to like a resistance area right here, right? So let's see, let me make this a little bigger, right? So if we're thinking about clearing short stops like this range, that this little rectangle that I put here, short stops fuel can ignite inside cam setup trend day breakout, right? So we only kind of hit these, we only kind of touch in between this, we didn't break above this, you know what I'm saying? So maybe some short stops got cleared, right? But probably not all of them, because we still had probably shorts from up here, so their short covering would be around this cam R3 level, right? So same kind of, let's see, this is a overlapping higher value day on the Camarillas. So I'm looking for support around this cam S3 level. Like if we open within like this area right here, like where we closed, any pullback to this S3 level, we could get a push up to the Camarilla R3. That's a good target. So the money zone is an outside value day, so that's suggesting kind of a ranging kind of motion right here, right? Ranging price action, and that's no good. That's just chop, man. So hopefully it doesn't play out like that, but that's how I'm looking at this setup right here. The Camarillas for overlapping higher value for moderately bullish kind of setups, you know, like around S3. And this is also a double pivot zone, because we have the pivot zone right here creating a double pivot zone with the S3, right? So the S3 and the pivot level is the same, almost the same level. So looking for support around here. If it breaks, then I wouldn't be really trading this. I'll be trading AMD if the market is weak, you know. So this is like a secondary bullish stock for me to trade, because if it's bullish, I'll take the strongest one, which is NVIDIA, and if it's weak, I'll take AMD. But if this starts out and is surprisingly more bullish than NVIDIA, then we'll take these breakouts here with probably a support around here, or maybe the value area high, the money zone. if we get support around this level as well for the push higher. And let's see here, let me show you one other thing. Let's see here, 1 second, let me just adjust everything so it fits. Right, so on bookmap I just want to show how each stock kind of close. Wait, hold on. All right, so NVIDIA closed with this bubble right here. Hold on, I'm not gonna adjust that too much, it's too much work. Matter of fact, let me just pull it back a little bit so you can see a little more. On this monitor it gets kind of big, so I gotta do some adjustments. Right, so this is how NVIDIA closed, right, with this big buying bubble at the end. So at the end of the trading session, buyers were still jumping in. Right, now take a look at AMD, how AMD closed. Right, so AMD closed with this big selling button, right, or bubble. Actually, man, I keep calling it a button. So big selling button at the end. So even though we had this push up right here, same with all tech was buying, right, they closed out their positions, right, so they sold. Let's see here. Now with Tesla, you see the difference, right? We had buying at the end, so they're still jumping in, right? So that's why I was saying AMD is a weaker stock compared to, like, when you're comparing these tech stocks, AMD is a weaker stock. So any kind of signs of weakness, that's what I'm jumping in with right here. So all this is confluence for like AMD being a weaker tech stock, you know what I'm saying, and NVIDIA being the strongest. Look how big that is. Let me see how much volume is that. So right, that's 2,297,439 in volume, right? Let's see AMD. So that's 3,214,119, right? That's even more selling than this had buying. And then Tesla, let's see. Tesla had 2,192,488. So this had a lot of selling in it, man. So if the, let's see where the NQ is at. Right, the NQ is still holding up in it's still holding up in the ETH. Right, we're getting a little bit of selling, but it's still holding up. So yeah, so keeping an eye on this. If we have any retracement tomorrow and it gets weak, I'm jumping in on AMD sells. If it's strong, we're going for the NVIDIA buy. Alright, y'all, it's Malak Shalomo. That's my setups for tomorrow. And y'all trade safe and stay blessed.